presentation for you guys today. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Ali. This is my partner Mitzi. Together we're owners of the Reptile Den. So I have a little bit of a written piece I'd like to start, and then I have some animals kind of sprinkled in between this presentation. Then we're going to save some time at the end. We're going to pull out all the animals that I'm going to showcase, and we'll spend some time with them. You guys can hold, touch them, interact with them. So I'd like to start with this. Reptiles are the most misunderstood creatures in the world. They are often feared due to the lack of understanding, and as a result, they suffer in a plethora of ways. For example, snakes have been demonized since at least the story of Adam and Eve. With the Reptile Den, we provide educational demonstrations featuring live reptiles and bugs. Through these interactive presentations, we work to unravel the hundreds of years that have given these animals a bad rap. One of our idols is Jack Hanna, and his sentiment of touch the heart to teach the mind is our mantra that we operate by. So when you go to the zoo, you see your favorite animals, and you may read a plaque that tells of their perils in the wild. And in that moment, their story is top of mind. Some may respond to this call to action right then and there, but let's be honest, most don't. At a Reptile Den show, we remove that viewing glass that separates you and the animal, and we place that animal front and center. You see firsthand the true demeanor of these reptiles. You can touch, pet, and even hold some of them. Young or old, this captures your heart, and at a scout meeting, birthday, classroom, or anywhere else, the memory is cherished. And while you're interacting with these animals, that's where Mitzi or I come in, and we tell you the history of the animal, their perils, what's going on with their conservation, and it's a more kind of direct approach to it. And I've seen in my own eyes the change that these shows make. Mitzi could attest to the number of audiences we've presented to, where in the beginning, nobody wants to touch a snake. And by the end, everybody wants to touch them, hold them, everybody's super familiar and enjoys the animals. So I tell every young audience that we get in front of that they are the future generation of wildlife conservators. And whether they'll be working directly with animals or not, as a whole, it's society's indirect actions that will spell the fate of our reptiles and bugs. Trailing back to my first point, something as simple as changing the way the masses perceive the animals is the catalyst needed to save them. That is why these live demonstrations are so important. Not everybody has the luxury to go to the zoo. We travel all over the state and have done demonstrations at schools and churches where the kids rely on those institutions to give them the food that they need to survive. For those families, going to the zoo is the least of their concern. This line of work isn't for everybody though. The thousands of hours that have been poured into the Reptile Den are my proof. Don't get me wrong, there's good, but there's also bad and ugly. My show features primarily rescued animals. We put in so much more money into these rescues than if I were to buy one at a trade show or online. But it's not about the money. Believe me, money is great, and I'm sure we all can't get enough of it, right? But you can't put a price on an animal crying for help. And the fulfillment to give a previously disregarded animal a forever home and a purpose to educate thousands is something that's really special. So I think we're going to introduce the first animal here. Let me show you one of those previously neglected animals, and I'll kind of talk about their story. Alrighty. So this right here, this is Starburst. He's an albino Burmese python. This is a snake that is 16 years old. So, like I said, most of the animals that you're gonna see are rescues. So Starburst was one of the lucky ones. So let's kind of talk about him, okay? So he's 16 years old. I've had him here for a couple of years. When I got Starburst, he was almost half of his body weight. He was living in a kitchen cabinet in an unheated basement, had a very severe respiratory infection that required injections. So Mitzi and I'd have to pin the snake and she'd have to administer the injection, unfortunately. The truth is, Starburst is one of the lucky ones. People from all over the state call me oftentimes when it's too late. They dump their sick and dying animals onto me. And unfortunately, I've had to witness unimaginable animal neglect and more death that I would not even wish upon my worst enemy. Each reptile has their story, and out of respect for the dead, I won't get into the worst. I know the Herpetological Society gets in a ton of reptiles, and with the amount of calls I get too, is how I know how dire the disconnect of understanding is for our beloved reptile species. So we're gonna put them up, We'll take them back out at the end of the presentation and let you guys directly interact with them. All right, and I don't know all the Latin names, nor am I formally educated, nor do I know every single thing about these exotic animals. I'm always learning. Seeing the breakout success the Reptile Den has had, I know you don't need to have any of that, and if your passion is absolutely true, then you'll rise above all. And I respect all the people working in the same industry as me here in Illinois, because I know what it takes. But as an outsider looking in, the understanding we have between each other is very fragmented. Who doesn't want to be the best? Who doesn't let emotions take the wheel periodically? Standing in front of you, I could easily say I'm not perfect. People talk behind each other's backs. They say one thing to one person and another to someone else. I won't say directly, but who isn't guilty of this? People have their own motives. Admit it or not, it doesn't really matter to me. I know everybody needs to see this will, so I'd like to remind everyone why we became educators for reptiles before shows and dollars when it was a real hobby. What brought you into the hobby, and what are we fundamentally doing to recreate that excitement we had growing up so that the next generation could experience it too. I know we can all clearly align on that shared passion, and I hope for 2024 we put shade aside and instead of speculation we get to know each other. The success of the Reptile Den has allowed us to acquire reptiles that just as a sole hobbyist I couldn't justify keeping, and that lets us showcase some really impressive animals that you may not even see in a zoo. So I'm going to pull out this next one, all right? Alrighty. So this right here is Crocodile. He's a Cuvier dwarf caiman. They're the smallest species of crocodile in the world. So this is not a pet, so let me kind of say that first, okay? In Illinois, there's a very strict permit system that I have the permit for that allows me to keep this animal, to bring him to educational events like this. Okay, even at this guy's size, if he really wanted to, he could do some serious damage, and he could certainly take a finger off or a portion of my finger at this size. So the state of Illinois requires us to ban these animals' mouths for all appearances, for safety. But like I said, without the Reptile Den, we'd never have the opportunity to work with an animal like this. Working with crocodilians was really my dream growing up. This is about as close as you can get to a dinosaur nowadays. Like I said, not a good pet at all. These guys get to about 4 feet long. These are from South Central America. And they have these osteoderm muscle kind of armor on their back, really like Roman armor, fully armored animals. And we'll put them up for now, and in a bit, when I finish this presentation, we'll take them back out. I'll let you guys feel up close. I don't know how many of you guys have ever held a crocodile before or pet one, but it's really, really neat. Let me show you guys another animal that's a little more reasonable for you guys that have an itch to get kind of like a crocodilian, okay? Right here is Godzilla. She's an Argentine tegu. The truth is she's super sweet, but it's like picking up a big dog. They're gonna wiggle to get out of your hands, do everything they can. She'll roll like an alligator to get out of my hands. She's a sweetheart. These guys get pretty big, but if you're really set on wanting a crocodile, maybe opt for an Argentine tegu, okay? These guys are from South America, Argentina, Brazil, and you may have heard they're invasive in the Florida Everglades. These guys, they eat all of the alligator eggs, and those guys are native to Florida. So they're causing pretty big problems out there. She recently shed, so I'm just helping her a little bit. But she's a beautiful animal, but like I said, even this lizard here, I mean, all animals require the utmost respect, because like I said, even this animal is a very powerful critter if you really wanted to, but I'm very lucky that all our animals are such strong educational ambassadors. They're very habituated to handling. We do shows to hundreds of kids every single week. They get to interact up close with Godzilla here. And at home, we'll let her run around with her cat and dog, and they're all the same size. And they all get along great. So she's awesome. These guys are omnivores. Most of you may know that. So she eats a little bit of everything. She definitely does prefer her meat, so we have to trick her into eating some of her veggies, so by wrapping it in meat and that kind of thing. But she's an absolute sweetheart. And, you know, if I wasn't running the Reptile Den, I don't know if I could justify having a gigantic enclosure to house this girl, because she is absolutely gigantic. And, but it's my dream to work with animals, so seeing it come into fruition, being able to have such a beautiful animal like this to bring the shows to show you guys, and you guys will be able to interact with her at the end, is something that's amazing. So I hope I've made it evident that I love reptiles and I want everyone else to love them too. They're hypoallergenic as they don't have any fur or dander. And if you take the time to learn their care, most reptiles are much more reasonable to look at after than a cat or a dog. Keeping reptiles as an adult and being an owner of the Reptile Den has helped heal my inner child. From catching toads and loving dinosaurs as a kid, to working with real life dinosaurs as an adult and helping ignite the same spark in the youth that I had growing up has been full circle to me. And despite the trials and tribulations, it's something that we aren't going to stop ever. In fact, we're going to do it more and more as we exponentially grow. I'm honored to be here today. I think the Chicago Herp Society is needed now more than ever, and I hope I can help. So with that, I think I'm going to close. We have a mini exhibit set up, and Mitzi here is going to be making some reptile-themed balloon animals for all you kids, all right? And then we're going to be taking out some of the critters and letting you guys interact with them. So, hope you guys enjoyed. I'm Ali, and that's my partner Mitzi. And this is what the Reptile Den is. That's our brand of animal education. Thank you.